Welcome back. This is K24 this morning. We're looking at the big stories of the day, of course, right here. And you can get your thoughts, your questions, your comments in at I am Jeff Mote or at K24 TV. Looking at the front page of the Standard now, Kenya's richest counties listed. Nairobi, Meru, Nyeri, and Kirinyaga leading the pack. And on the back end of this, Turkana, Mandera, Samburu, and Busia, the poorest counties. This from the latest Kenya National Bureau of Statistics data. To talk about this on the back of that, Senate failing to strike revenue share deal. Senators were yesterday unable to reach a deal on the method to allocate county funds. A faction opposed to government-sponsored formula alleged stronger tactics by state agents to force them to approve it. Here we are, round 7 on the floor of the Senate. I want to start this one with Joy on this. When do we get out of the woods on this particular issue? Because if there was a time this should have been sorted out, regardless of the differences, as we were saying during the break, the third time would have found a way forward. We are now on round 7. We are not yet sure if this one really has been thrashed out. When do we get out of the woods and actually have counties get their money?
I'll repeat what I've always said. The Senate doesn't have very many things to do. But this is one of those things that they actually have to do.
And they can't get it right?
The fact that they can't get it right, Bana, should make us rethink even the Senate manenos. Why do we need a Senate if they honestly cannot talk about 2 or 3 things that make sense? But this thing is a bit, let me just put it in context. The problem did not just start now. It started last year. You remember when we had a big argument in the National Assembly about the 15% that was supposed to go to the counties. That would have put it at somewhere, if my memory serves me anything, 350-something billion was supposed to be allocated to counties. But the National Assembly said we are allocating 316, and we are allocating 316, and we are doing nothing but 316. That is on the backdrop of not having an operationalized equalization fund. So you don't have an equalization fund, which is supposed to be a cushion for losing counties. You don't have the full 15% allocation, and we send this to counties, to the Senate. So from the onset, the Senate was acting on a situation where they're already working with less than enough. Now, you have the less than enough, then you put it to these guys last year in April, and they've been doing other things, impeaching here and impeaching there, and, they were very busy doing other things, and put this at the back burner until when the other formula is expiring. So now it becomes crunch time. We have to sort this out. Coming to sort it out, by that time, things have changed. People have been whipped, de-whipped, up-whipped, and the mechanics of the House have changed. So what that means is, whereas before there was a way to sort of get people to the conclusion faster, now you have people who are hitherto chained by their offices are now free agents. They're free radicals. And that's what we're saying over the break. Some of them, for nuisance value, will just keep being the stone in the shoe. You walk and it just keeps irritating you. But that said, where I started is where I'm going to finish this conversation. This is one thing that they're supposed to do. One of the few things that they have 4 roles. This is one of the 4 roles. Surely, by not being able to crack this, are they telling us that they're completely incompetent? Should we rethink the need of a Senate? Or is it this particular House that is so inept that they cannot handle such an issue? Okay. Because if we were talking strictly about facts and figures and needs and balances, the CRA makes a proposal, but it is the duty of the House to crack the code. If they cannot crack the code, they tell us, we send them home, we look for the people who can do the work, because the previous formula has expired. The CRA has offered to mediate. Can they just do the big boy thing and say, you know what, we've been unable to work this, let us sit down, let CRA mediate, and let them just give us a formula. So today, they have to either crack this thing or admit failure and apologize to Kenyans.
Arnold, are we having issue-based, debates, or is it a personality-based thing? Because one suggestion made by Senator Rengo this week is shot down. The next week, the same thing is said by Murkomen, and they agree, let's go this way. Clearly, it's the person who speaks, not the issue that's spoken about.
Up to this point, I still believe that we are actually on a serious deliberation that is actually issue-based. I have seen that argument. I will see it in my church sometimes back. Somebody argued and said that if somebody tells you that you are in the flesh, then you will ask them, at what particular time do I then leave the flesh and go in the spirit fully, so long as I'm human? So sometimes it becomes very difficult to actually take away issues from personalities. I know the personalities in the Senate, and of course the Senate has only 47 votes. And I think that is very good because by now we will actually have gone either way. It is a failure on both sides. It's not just on one side. And that it's gone 7 times. I'm trying to imagine if this was in the National Assembly. That would long have become a crime scene with actually things I don't want to actually mention on air. But there's some level of competence, there's some level of decorum that happens in the Senate, even as they disagree vehemently. I also do not think that the problem they have should affect counties because the court already pronounced itself on this issue. And the control of budget and treasury, the national treasury, should not have excuses on why counties have not paid their staff until now. But I will surprise you that so many counties have not paid their staff. And they are using this as an excuse. So both treasury and the control of budget should not be using this as an excuse because the court long time ago already directed that anytime they steal an impasse, the other functions should continue. They can catch up and then we will see how we balance out remits and such like things. But I'm still surprised that it took until last week, that's when the Treasury was sending out money to take care of things that are basic like salaries. I think on that end also, we cannot blame the Senate on that.
Right.
Especially when the court already directed and the Treasury knows this, the control of budget understands this. This is not. The things that are actually stole in the counties, at least the basics and the day-to-day running of the county assembly, or rather counties, has nothing to do with this impasse.
Okay.
So going forward, I know that today, there's a feeling that today is 8th, right? It's the 8th time. It's normally, it should be a new beginning. We've done with a week, so I hope. And I actually saw, I think, Honorable Murkomen saying yesterday that, Senator Murkomen saying that they have got there's a deal. So there is, but you cannot blame this on probably the change in Jubilee because at any particular time they had numbers to change. They said, have you realized that when they have got numbers for petty things, but for serious things, they don't have numbers?
Right.
Yeah. So I hope today we will actually have a solution to this. But I love the discussion because it's an issue-based discussion. However long it takes, it should not affect the counties realistically because already, like I've said, there are instruments in place to remedy that. And sharing of revenue is a serious thing, honestly. We shouldn't rush it. Why are we even talking about it that we should actually rush through? This is not like one of those things like rushing through something. We just want to do it as a ritual. No, it's a serious thing and it's going to affect counties. Like we all have said that it's common sense, but sometimes common sense is not so common.
It's not common.
Let me get Mark in on this as well. Mark, are you as optimistic as Arnold on this that today we get this one done and dusted in terms of the allocation of revenue to the counties? We've already seen, on the front page of the Standard, talking about a faction opposed to what they're calling a government-sponsored formula, alleging strong-arm tactics by state agents to force them to approve it. Last week on the floor of the House, Sakaja spoke about how he had to be in the precincts of the Senate, 5:30 in the morning in the basement, to avoid being arrested. With these realities of really what's going on, do you think on the floor of the House to get this sorted out today?
On that arrest story, I find it very laughable because was the arrest suspended immediately after the Senate session? You know, our senators and politicians like high drama. There are people who have said that the grenades were thrown at them and then they're holding the pin to the grenade. You wonder the person threw the pin and went with the grenade. You know, politicians are politicians. So let's not read too keenly. Why would you arrest Sakaja for a formula? I think that's uncalled for. Yeah, the only arrest he has faced was the arrest for his own misgivings at a certain lounge. Now, that said, we must understand that this, I have said before, this is an egos contest. It is not a contest for revenue allocation for the people of Kenya. This is not about counties. This is about egos. There's the ego of we were removed from Senate leadership, we will show you. Then there's the ego for we are the new Senate leadership, we will show you. So this is grandstanding at the cost of our counties. Because the truth of the matter, who does not know that Turkana needs more money to develop? Who does not know that Lamu needs more money to develop? But also, who does not know that Kakamega needs more money for hospitals and to feed its larger population? So none of these arguments is particularly, ingeniously right, and the other ones are foolishly wrong. There's no such thing. The fact of the matter is, and the truth is, anyone looking at it with sober eyes will tell you for free that this issue is valid on both sides. So you do need a formula that protects the smaller counties, but you also need a formula that allocates revenues where the populations are. This is even my child who's learning ABCD will tell you that's common sense. So when you see this kind of grandstanding and trying to win political points, then you should know that really Senate has lost the plot, and they do owe us an apology, as Joy Mdivo has said. But we have optimism for today. Yes, maybe cooler heads will prevail, and if cooler heads can't prevail, then someone does need to bulldoze some sense in the head.
And you'll wait and see how that plays out on the floor of the House today, and see if indeed the cooler heads prevail and a deal is found on the floor of the House. That will be happening later on today, and of course it will be followed right here on K24 TV. I want us to move our discussion along and now look at the political dynamics of the day. Front page of the Daily Nation, for Ruto allies, it's no game of chicken right there, talking about campaigns for 2022 presidency going quiet as supporters take a back seat. That's what the Daily Nation says. However, in the Star, why Uhuru will support Raila in 2022, Jubilee Vice Chairman says President Kenyatta wants to settle pre-independence historical debt. Murathe says Odinga, the best person to guarantee peace, development, and stability. Joy, usually call this a twilight zone we're in, and really that's where we are. When you have the vice chair of one party talking about the leader of another party being the person who they'll support, what really is going on in this political dynamic from where you stand? Which
historical debt exactly is this that people are paying? Because I thought our debt was being published by the Central Bank of Kenya. I think they just released their weekly report. So what debt is this that we are paying? As far as I'm concerned, like I said last week, David Morathe has some insights that the rest of us may not have because of his proximity to the president. However, some of these things, you must put it in context. I was listening to Honorable Wanga yesterday, and she was saying, look, that's the opinion of an individual, because it is Kenyans who vote in who comes in next. It's Kenyans who decide if there's a debt, if it has to be paid. Because when you make such pronouncements, then you cement this narrative that has been going around that, you know what, it doesn't matter what the voters want. There are people somewhere who decide who's going to be a leader anyway. So why bother vote? And that's why I said it last time. When somebody is not an elected leader, does not sit in any of our houses of administration, and he speaks like this, either we should be very afraid of him and something should be done about it, or we should ignore him totally, because there are 44 million of us. Of us, maybe 10 million are registered to be voters. Surely, is that not up to us? But that said, we have had time and time again, leave 2022 politics alone. Leave 2022 politics, it's too early. The president does not want us to talk about 2022 politics. Then here. I mean, we cannot be blowing hot and cold at the same time. Let us say one thing and stick with it consistently. We have come to a place where even the Tanga crew has been beaten to, let's all wait out COVID, let's all. Then he starts and says something like this, quickly backed up by Atuoli. It gets to a place where now people are thinking, okay, is it true that these guys just sit somewhere and panga for the rest of us? These deep state manenos. This is where those narratives come from.
Right.
Because if indeed there was something like this that was cooking and it was so apparent that there is a debt to be paid, would it not be more prudent to appeal to Kenyans to have the good sense to see it, rather than make a declaration of this sort? So I found it reckless. I found it in poor taste, if you ask me, because even if it was Honorable Raila, do I want to be elected because there is a debt that is being paid, not because I'm competent to do this job? As in, I just found it to be in such poor taste that I'm even appalled that we're giving it this much airtime. But I saw the tweet from Senator, what's his name, the Chief Whip. I saw the sentiments by Ms. Wanga, and from both Jubilee and ODM, they're saying, look, those are the sentiments of a personal individual. As far as we are concerned, we are delivering on the president's agenda. We are not talking 2022. Right now, it's time to work. we'll cross the river we'll cross the bridge when we get there. And so David Murathe, take a chill pill. Give us a break.
Arnold, there's a tweet coming in from Karori Kipchumba. No stranger to any of you. With the hopes of a referendum quickly vanishing, Murathe summarizes the BBI report with a Raila Odinga endorsement. If they couldn't deliver a referendum, how can they deliver a Raila presidency? Is this one and the same thing? BBI and a Raila presidency? Is that what we're talking about?
If you took Murathe's statement for what it was, if seriously, as a leading proponent of BBI, then you would actually say that BBI and Raila's endorsement are one and the same. But I don't want to believe that is what it is, because BBI has got higher ambitions. It aspires to bigger things, at least if the text is anything. But I need to say this, that if we do not, I'm even surprised that Joe is saying that we should not be giving a lot of airtime to this. All of us should actually give a lot of airtime to what Murathe said for one simple reason, that it declares us to be a yellow state. We are a yellow republic. That's what he's trying to say. There are few people can actually sit down and abrogate themselves the right to determine the destiny of a nation through extrajudicial means. Should actually worry all of us. For the simple reason that, we should actually get angry and speak about this. In other places, people will actually be protesting. The president will actually have pronounced himself on this matter. Because it is one thing to say that Murathe is speaking in his personal capacity when he is the president's vice chair. Actually the substantive chair, because if I actually asked you if you met the chair, Jubilee's chair in the street, you might not be able to tell that man from any other person. So the substantive chair, Jubilee's substantive chair is Murathe. But then, because of the politics of Article 10 of the Constitution, where we have to have the face of Kenya, some guy from the coast acts as the chair, who substantively is not really the chair. As in de facto, Murathe is the chair. There is that guy from the coast.
Okay.
So we actually need to get angry about this, because one man or a few individuals can sit down and tell us that primarily this is where we are going as a country. And he tells the rest of us, prepare for a Raila presidency. We are prepared. Is this your house? Is Kenya his backyard?
Right.
Is it his grandfather's backyard or land, where he's actually telling us on how he's administering that state? Murathe belongs to that group of individuals who still look at Kenya from the colonial perspective of where we are a business entity, and a few of those who actually have got capital, they can actually push things here and there. Okay. But I want to say this, what was he trying to drive us away from? I would want to think that he also was trying to get us to get angry and forget a few other things, because I think last week there were a few other news pieces that came out, and it really looked like it was going his way, without necessarily going into the details of that. But Murathe's statement is very belittling of us. It's actually disrespectful to a nation, especially a nation that speaks of aspiring to become a competent democracy. Okay. It's in bad spirit, it's in bad taste. He needs to be condemned, not even in the strongest terms possible, but he should be banished from public space. But when he comes up and people just wave it away, if you looked at his tweet, he said that Raila will become president through a proper election or an improper election.
And will be transitional.
And you see, when he says that, for the person of Raila who actually has his life embedded or cast in the aspiration for better democracy, for electoral openness, for progressive democracy, he should actually have pronounced himself to that. But his people are so quick to say, it doesn't matter. It's not him who said. But he stands to gain from that statement if it actually is pushed through.
Okay. Let me get Mark in on this as well, because Mark, we're at a scenario where some people are talking about the fact that this really isn't him speaking out of turn. This really is the sentiment of the party at large, because this isn't the first time he said things that have rubbed, a large part of the country the wrong way. But the same party leader, who is also our president, who has spoken about the fact that we are not politicking, we are delivering on the big four, we'll politic later, turns a blind eye every single time his own vice chair makes such utterances, makes people think that, this isn't David Murathe speaking as David Murathe, this is sanctioned from the top.
I'm wondering what the difference is between doing a political rally and making a political statement. And we need to be very clear as to what the president meant. When the president was talking about politicking, he was talking about people speculating who they support or who they don't support. He was very clear it was about the campaigns, style rallies, and moving around campaigning for an individual to be president. Now, that is very different from Mark Bichachi saying that I would like Jeff Motte to be governor of Nairobi in 2022. That does not take in any way the focus, because number one, I am not tasked with delivering the big four, and B, that there's nothing wrong with that. However, if I start holding political rallies, printing posters saying Jeff Motte for governor in 2022, then there's a problem, because then I'm taking the public focus away from the things that matter. But that said, Jeff Motte, in classic nature, is simply poking the public and stirring the hornet's nest. And he's done this since 2016. He's the first one who came out and basically called the deputy president corrupt. He's on record to say that he has stirred the hornet's nest a lot. Now, the thing is, you must ask yourself, why is he doing it and to what end? The end for him is very simple. There's two candidates so far in the 2022 race. There is one candidate called William Ruto, and then there's candidate number 2 called anyone else but Ruto. Now, there is a huge part of the country that is just like, you know what, give us anything but Ruto. And that part of the country is finding voice in the statements that people like Murathe are saying. Now, my problem would be if Murathe then went on the campaign trail to talk about this, but in terms of a discourse, in terms of a discussion as to whether you want a John Mdivo presidency, an Arnold presidency, or a William Ruto presidency, let's intellectually dissect those parts. Let's dissect whether Raila Odinga, for his role in the 1992 repeal of the Section 2A, or his role in the 2010 Constitution, or his role in 2002, then deserves to be. Let's have that discussion, but let's not then go full political rallies on it.
Okay, and that is where we're actually going to start winding up this particular show right now. We have 30 seconds to go. Each of you parting shots this morning, very quickly. Joel, let me start with you. What's your parting shot today?
I think I'll start where Mark stopped, because if you look at the statement by David Morathe together with the statement that we saw from Oburu Odinga earlier, of this time round Raila is going to make it because he has a system behind him, then maybe I have to agree with Arnold. Let's not discount David Morathe offhand. Maybe there is something cooking within the system. Maybe there is a preferred candidate, and all these things that we are seeing are being put in place to to make this a reality in our lifetime. So I must agree with Arnold. As Kenyans, we should be concerned, because we are working hard to put up these institutions and to put up these laws and to follow the rule of law, because we want to be a society where outcomes are predictable according to the law. And if we're in a society where we are at the whim and mercy of unseen forces, then it doesn't augur well with us. Okay. So in my parting short, it would be for every Kenyan, you know what? Start paying attention to the fine print, because as a lawyer, I'll tell you, the devil is always in the detail. Let's start listening to the fine print, and let's start reading between the lines, because clearly we are being told something. We are not listening, but we are being told something. Murathe has done this to us before. Okay. Arnold, your parting shot very quickly.
My parting shot would be very similar to hers, and I'll say this, that in 2002, we had a system, and the people defeated the system. In 2013, there was a system that was opposed to Uhuru Kenyatta. They came up with the UDF. They had their own candidate. There was a system. It was defeated. In 2022, if you are not agreeable to what the current leadership has done, or where Murathe and team wants to take us, you can still defeat that particular system, because the voice of the people is the voice of God.
Okay, we'll leave it at that particular point in time. Thank you so much for making time this morning. Arnold Maleba, Joy Mdivo for being part of the show. Mark Bichachi was joining the conversation via Skype right here. And just in case you missed it, Nairobi County Speaker Beatrice Elachi resigning this morning as we started the show. She cited leadership wrangles and threats on her life, why she decided to take out of that seat. And of course, push and pull between her and Governor Sonko. And in is John Kamango. He is now acting Speaker of Nairobi County. Of course, that's a developing story that you'll be getting right here on K24 this morning. Don't forget, you can get yourself a copy of your PD. It's only 10 shillings. And the number that you dial is *550*4#. It's *550*4#. You get that copy straight to your phone, brought to you by Safaricom and the People Daily. Short break. We are back as we get interactive. This is K24 This Morning.